Commander Vextal stared at the bright green display screen in front of him. His yellow eyes blinked twice as he looked at the numbers again. Something was wrong. The readings could not be right. He had been watching space for over 20 years. From this station, and he had never seen anything like this, the monitoring station floated in the dark space around Kolrath Prime, a huge gas giant with swirling purple and blue clouds. The station was the best the Zephyrian Empire had built. It could see ships from very far away, even before they entered Empire space. Nothing could sneak past it, but now the sensors were showing something impossible. "Lieutenant Kessara, come." "Here right now," Vextal called out. His voice was rough and deep, like all Zephyrians. The scales on his neck stood up slightly, showing he was worried. Kessara hurried over to her commander. She was younger than him, but she was very good with the equipment. Her green scales were brighter than his, and her eyes moved quickly as she looked at the display. "What do you see?" Vextal asked. Kessara looked at the screen carefully. Her clawed fingers moved over the controls, checking the readings 3 times. Each time, the numbers came back the same. Her mouth opened slightly. In shock. "Commander, the energy readings they are impossible. This ship, if it is a ship, has power levels 12 times higher than our biggest warships. The Eternal Domination does not even come close to these numbers." Vextal felt his heart beat faster. The Eternal Domination was the Empire's most powerful ship. It could destroy entire planets. If something out there was 12 times more powerful, it could be very dangerous. "Run the scan again?" "Maybe the equipment is broken," he said. Kessara worked on the controls for 10 minutes. She checked every system, every sensor, every piece of equipment. When she was done, she looked at her commander with fear in her eyes. "All systems are working perfectly, Commander. The readings are real. There's something out there, and it is coming toward us." Vextal walked to the big window that looked out into space. The stars looked peaceful, but somewhere out there, something was moving toward them. Something that should not exist. "How far away is it?" he asked. "About 6 hours at current speed, Commander. It is moving fast, but not as fast as it could. It seems to be taking its time." That made Vextal even more worried. If this thing was so powerful, why was it moving slowly? Was it trying to scare them? Was it planning something? What about the ship design? What do our computers say about it? Kessara worked at her station for a few minutes. Then she stopped and looked at the screen with wide eyes. Her hands started to shake. "Commander, you need to see this. The computer has matched the ship design to something in our old records, but it cannot be right. It just cannot be." Vextal walked over and looked at the screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. The computer was showing a match from 30 years ago. The ship design looked like the old human ships from the war, but that was impossible. The Empire had killed all the humans, every single one of them. "This has to be a mistake," he said, but his voice was not confident. "The humans are gone. We made sure of that. We destroyed every human world, every human ship, every human colony. There are no humans left in the galaxy." Kessara nodded, but she still looked scared. "That is what I thought too, Commander. But the computer does not lie. The ship design matches human technology from before the war. But the power levels are much higher than anything humans ever had." Far away from the monitoring station, Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of his ship. The used Valiant was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was long and sleek, with smooth metal that seemed to glow with its own light. The ship was beautiful, but it was also deadly. Blake was a tall man with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. He had been in space for most of his life, but he had never been on a mission this important. Today, humanity would return to the galaxy. After 30 years of hiding, building, and planning, they were ready. "Lisa, how long until we reach the Empire border?" he asked. Lisa Park sat at the navigation station. She was a small woman with black hair and quick hands. She had been flying ships since she was very young, and she was the best pilot Blake had ever seen. "About 6 hours, Captain. We are right on schedule." Blake nodded. He walked around the bridge, looking at his crew. These people had worked for years to get to this moment. They all knew how dangerous this mission was. The Empire had tried to kill every human in the galaxy. Most of them had succeeded. But some humans had escaped to the far edges of space, where the Empire could not find them. "Danny, how are our engines doing?" Blake asked. Danny Rodriguez was working at the engineering station. He was a big man with strong hands and a kind face. He had built most of the new technology on the ship himself. "Running perfectly, Captain. The quantum fusion drives are working better than we hoped. We have enough power to fight the entire Empire fleet if we need to," Blake smiled. The quantum fusion drives were humanity's greatest invention. They had been working on them for 20 years, ever since they had escaped to the hidden colonies. The drives could create more power than anything the Empire had ever built. "Karen, are our weapons ready?" Karen White looked up from her station. She was a serious woman with red hair and green eyes. She had lost her family when the Empire attacked her homeworld, and she had been planning revenge ever since. "All weapons are charged and ready, Captain. The plasma lance arrays are working perfectly. If the Empire wants a fight, we can give them one they will never forget." Blake walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Empire was waiting. They thought they had won the war 30 years ago. They thought humanity was gone forever. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Amy, what do we know about Empire defenses in this area?" He asked. Amy Chen was the intelligence officer. She was very smart and had spent years studying Empire military tactics. She knew more about the enemy than anyone else on the ship. "They have a monitoring station at Kulrith Prime, Captain. It is their best early warning system. They will see us coming long before we reach their main territory. They will probably send ships to stop us." Blake nodded. That was what they had expected. The Empire would not let them pass without a fight, but humanity was ready for that fight. "Steve, are our medical systems ready for combat?" he asked. Steve Martinez was the chief medical officer. He was a calm man who had saved many lives over the years. He did not like fighting, but he understood why it was necessary. "All medical stations are ready, Captain. We have enough supplies to handle any injuries. I just hope we do not need to use them." Blake understood how Steve felt. None of them wanted to fight, but the Empire had given them no choice. They had tried to destroy humanity, and they had failed. Now humanity was stronger than ever, and they were coming home. "Rick, are the Marines ready?" Blake asked. Rick Santos was the Marine commander. He was a tough man who had trained his soldiers to be the best fighters in the galaxy. If the Empire wanted to board their ship, they would be very sorry. "My Marines are ready for anything, Captain. We have been waiting 30 years for this chance. The Empire will not take this ship." Blake looked at his crew one more time. They were all ready. They had all lost friends and family to the Empire. They had all spent years preparing for this moment. Now it was time to show the galaxy that humanity was not dead. They were back, and they were stronger than ever. "Set course for Kulrith Prime," Blake said. "It is time to let the Empire know that humanity has returned." The Use Valiant moved through space toward its destiny. Behind them, the hidden human colonies waited for news. Ahead of them, the Empire waited in ignorance. The galaxy was about to change forever, and it would all begin with one impossible ship that should not exist. Admiral Vexmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. He was old even for a Zephyrion, with dark green scales that had grown thick over his many years of war. His yellow eyes were cold and hard as he looked at the report in his clawed hands. "This cannot be right," he said to his second-in-command. "Humans do not exist anymore. I killed them myself 30 years ago. I watched their worlds burn." Captain Velkin nodded quickly. He was much younger than the Admiral, and still feared him greatly. Old Zephyrians knew the stories of Admiral Vexmore and his victories in the human war. "The monitoring station has sent the same report 3 times, Admiral. They say a ship with human design is approaching our border. The power readings are very high." Vexmore crushed the datapad in his hand. The metal bent and broke under his strength. He had spent 30 years enjoying the peace that came after destroying the humans. They had been the only race that ever fought back against the Empire with any real success. When they were gone, the galaxy became quiet and easy to control. Send a message to all ships in the patrol fleet. We will intercept this pretender and show them what happens to those who try to trick the Empire. The Admiral walked to the big screen at the front of his bridge. 27 Zephyrian warships flew in formation around his flagship. Each ship was powerful enough to destroy a small planet. Together they had never lost a battle. Set course for the intercept point, maximum speed. The Zephyrian fleet moved through space like a pack of hunting animals. Their ships were dark and angular, built for war and nothing else. They had terrorized the galaxy for over 100 years, and they were proud of their reputation. On the Use Valiant, the crew prepared for what they knew was coming. Captain Blake stood calmly in the center of his bridge, watching the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was approaching fast, just as they had expected. "Amy, what can you tell me about their formation?" he asked. Amy Chen studied her intelligence screens carefully. She had spent years learning about Empire tactics, and she recognized this pattern immediately. "Standard hunter formation, Captain. They are trying to surround us before we can escape. Admiral Vexmore is leading them personally," he commanded. "The fleet that attacked the Mars colony 30 years ago?" Blake's face grew hard at the mention of Mars. That had been one of the last human colonies to fall. Millions of people had died there, including many of his friends. Then he will get to see what we have learned since then. "Lisa, slow us down. Let them think we are afraid." Lisa Park smiled as she adjusted their speed. The Use Valiant had been moving fast, but now it slowed to normal cruising speed. To the Empire ships, it would look like the humans were trying to surrender or escape. "Danny, how are our shield systems?" Blake asked. Danny Rodriguez checked his engineering displays. Everything was working perfectly. The quantum phase shields were a completely new technology that the Empire had never seen before. "All systems are green, Captain. Our shields can handle anything they throw at us." "The quantum matrix is stable and ready," Blake nodded. The quantum phase shields were the key to their plan. Empire weapons worked by hitting their target with pure energy. But the quantum shields did not just block that energy. They absorbed it and made the ship stronger. "Karen, target their lead ships, but do not fire until I give the order. We want to see what they can do first." Karen White's fingers moved over her weapons controls. The plasma lance arrays were charged and ready. Each weapon was more powerful than anything the Empire had ever built, but they would not need to use full power today. "Targets locked, Captain. Ready to fire on your command." The two fleets approached each other in the darkness of space. The Zephyrian ships spread out in their attack formation, while the human ship flew straight ahead without changing course. Admiral Vexmore watched the human ship on his main screen. It was larger than he had expected, and it did look like the old human designs, but it was also different somehow. The metal seemed to shine with its own light, and the shape was more elegant than the crude human ships he remembered. "Send them a surrender demand," he ordered. The message was sent on all frequencies, translated into the old human language. The Admiral waited for a response, but none came. The human ship continued on its course as if nothing had happened. "Admiral, they are not responding to our signals," Captain Velkin reported. Vexmore's eyes glowed with anger. "Then we will make them respond. All ships, prepare to fire. Target their engines. We will disable them and take prisoners." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire at the same moment. 27 ships sent their most powerful weapons toward the human vessel. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and fusion missiles all converged on the Use Valiant. The space around the human ship exploded in brilliant light. The energy from the Empire weapons was enough to destroy a small moon. The explosion was so bright that it lit up the entire system. On the Dominator, the Zephyrian crew cheered. They had never seen such a massive combined attack. No ship could survive that much firepower, but as the light faded, something impossible happened. The human ship was still there, floating in space as if nothing had happened. Its shields glowed with a soft blue light, but the ship itself was completely undamaged. What? How is that possible? Admiral Vexmore whispered. Captain Blake smiled as he looked at the tactical display. The Empire weapons had done exactly what they expected. The quantum shields had absorbed all that energy and converted it into power for their own systems. Well, that was impressive. Now it is our turn. Karen, show them what human engineering can do. Fire one shot at the lead cruiser, minimal power. Karen White pressed a single button on her control panel. One of the plasma lance arrays fired a thin beam of pure energy toward the nearest Zephyrian ship. The beam looked small compared to the massive barrage the Empire had just fired, but when it hit the Zephyrian cruiser, the result was devastating. The enemy ship's shields collapsed instantly. The beam cut through the hull like it was made of paper, leaving a clean hole from front to back. The ship's engines went dead, and it began to drift helplessly in space. Impossible! Admiral Vexmore shouted. No human weapon can do that, but Captain Blake was not finished. He wanted to send a message that the Empire would never forget. Tony. Analyze their formation. Find their weaknesses. Tony Garcia worked quickly at his strategic operations station. He had studied Empire tactics for years, and he could see exactly what they were doing wrong. They are bunched too close together, Captain. Classic mistake. If we hit them from the right angle, we can disable multiple ships with each shot, Blake nodded. Karen, target the ships on the left flank. 3 shots, minimum power. We want to disable them, not destroy them. The Hughes Valiant fired again. This time, 3 beams of energy reached out toward the Empire formation. Each beam found its target perfectly, cutting through shields and armor like they were not even there. 3 more Zephyrian ships went dead. In space. Admiral Vexmore could not believe what he was seeing. In less than a minute, the humans had disabled 4 of his best ships. His weapons had done nothing to them, while their weapons cut through his fleet like a hot knife through butter. All ships, retreat to maximum range, he ordered. Reform and prepare for long-range bombardment. The Zephyrian fleet pulled back. Quickly, fear replacing their earlier confidence. They had never seen weapons like this before. They had never seen shields that could absorb their most powerful attacks without taking any damage. Captain, Blake watched them retreat with satisfaction. The first part of their plan was working perfectly. The Empire was learning that humanity was not the same weak race they had tried to destroy 30 years ago. Beth, open a communication channel to the Empire fleet. Beth Turner worked at her communications station. She was excited to be part of this historic moment. Humanity had been silent for 30 years, but now they were ready to speak again. Channel open, Captain. Blake stepped forward so that his image would be transmitted to the Empire ships. He wanted Admiral Vexmore to see his face when he delivered his message. Admiral Vexmore, this is Captain Ryan Blake of the United Earthship Valiant. You tried to destroy humanity 30 years ago. You failed. We have returned, and we are no longer the weak race you remember. This is your only warning. Leave this system now, or face the consequences. Admiral Vexmore stared at the human face on his screen. The man looked calm and confident, not afraid at all. This was not how humans were supposed to act when facing the Empire fleet. Humans do not give warnings to the Empire, Vexmore replied. We give warnings to others. You are outnumbered 23-1. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick. Blake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Admiral, you seem to have forgotten how to count. You started with 27 ships. Now you have 23. How many more do you want to lose? The truth of those words hit the Admiral like a physical blow. The human was right. 4 of his ships were already disabled, and the human ship had not even been scratched. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vexmore felt something he had never experienced before. He felt fear. This is not over, human, he said, trying to sound brave. The Empire has thousands of ships. We will hunt you down and finish what we started. Supreme Chancellor Mordek sat in his massive throne room on the capital world of Zephyr Prime. The room was built to make visitors feel small and afraid. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, and the walls were covered with weapons taken from defeated enemies. For over 50 years, Mordek had ruled the Empire with an iron fist. But today, for the first time in decades, he felt worried. The report from Admiral Exmoor lay on the table in front of him. He had read it 5 times, and each time it made less sense. One human ship had disabled 4 Empire warships without taking any damage. The humans were supposed to be extinct. He had made sure of that himself. "Bring me the War Council," he ordered his aide. "All of them. Right now?" Within an hour, the most powerful military leaders in the Empire stood before their Supreme Chancellor. General Quakes commanded the Empire's ground forces. Admiral Vexler controlled the Second Fleet. War Admiral Ziekthos led the mighty Seventh Fleet. All of them were veterans of countless battles, and all of them looked confused and angry. "Explain to me how this is possible," Mordek said, his voice cold and dangerous. "Explain to me how one human ship can defeat an entire patrol fleet." The military leaders looked at each other nervously. None of them had a good answer. "General." Quakes stepped forward first. "Supreme Chancellor, the humans were always clever with technology. But 30 years ago, their ships were weak, their weapons were inferior. We destroyed them easily." Admiral Vexler nodded in agreement. "The report must be exaggerated. Perhaps Admiral Exmoor is getting old." Perhaps his crew panicked. Mordecai's eyes blazed with anger. "Are you calling Admiral Exmoor a liar? He is one of our greatest heroes. He personally led the attacks that destroyed the human colonies." "War." Admiral Ziekthos stepped forward. He was younger than the others, but he was known for his tactical brilliance. "Supreme Chancellor, if the report is true, then the humans have been hiding and building for 30 years. They have had time to develop new weapons, new shields, new technology. And you think they could surpass us?" Mordek asked. Ziekthos hesitated. The idea seemed impossible, but the evidence was right in front of them. "It is possible, Supreme Chancellor. Humans were always good at engineering. If they had enough time and resources. Mordek stood up from his throne. He was enormous even for a Zephyrian. His scales were black with age, and his eyes glowed with power. "Then we will show them that time and resources mean nothing against the might of the Empire. War Admiral Ziekthos, you will take the 7th Fleet and destroy this human ship. Use whatever force is necessary." Ziekthos bowed deeply. The 7th Fleet was the Empire's most powerful military force. It contained over 200 warships, including the flagship Eternal Domination. No enemy had ever survived an encounter with the 7th Fleet. "It will be done, Supreme Chancellor. The humans will not escape us twice." Meanwhile, on the Hughes Valiant, Captain Blake called a meeting of his senior staff. They had won the first battle, but everyone knew it was just the beginning. The Empire would not give up so easily. The senior officers gathered in the main briefing room. The walls were covered with displays showing star charts and tactical information. Blake looked at each of his people, knowing that they were about to face the greatest challenge in human history. "Amy, what do we know about the Empire's response?" he asked. Amy Chen had been monitoring Empire communications for hours. Her face was serious as she gave her report. "They are mobilizing the 7th Fleet, Captain. War Admiral Ziekthos is leading them personally. Over 200 ships, including their flagship. They are bringing everything they have." The room fell silent. Everyone knew about the 7th Fleet. It was the Empire's most feared military unit. They had destroyed entire civilizations without breaking a sweat. 200 ships, Tony Garcia said quietly. "That is a lot even for us." Blake nodded. "It is more than we expected, but we knew this day would come." "Danny, how are our systems holding up?" Danny Rodriguez checked his engineering reports. The battle with Admiral Exmoor had been easy for their ship, but fighting 200 enemies would be different. "All systems are running perfectly, Captain. The quantum fusion drives are operating at maximum efficiency. Our shields are fully charged and ready. The weapon systems are functioning better than we hoped." "How long can we maintain full power in extended combat?" Blake asked. "At least 12 hours at maximum output, Captain." Probably longer if we do not have to use full power the entire time. Blake was pleased with that answer. 12 hours should be enough to deal with the 7th Fleet, no matter how many ships they brought. Karen, what about our weapons? Can we handle that many targets? Karen White smiled grimly. She had been waiting for this moment for years. The plasma lance arrays can target up to 50 ships at once, Captain. We can fire continuously for hours without overheating. And each shot is powerful enough to disable any Empire ship. Rick, are your Marines ready for the possibility of boarding actions? Rick Santos nodded confidently. My Marines are ready for anything, Captain. If the Empire tries to board us, they will get a very unpleasant surprise. We have been training for this day for years. Blake walked to the main display, which showed the tactical situation. The Empire fleet was still several hours away, but they were coming fast. Soon, the U.S. Valiant would face the largest space battle in human history. Beth, have you been able to contact the other colonies? Beth Turner worked at her communications station. Yes, Captain. I have sent messages to all the hidden colonies. They are standing by and ready to help if needed. Blake nodded. The other human colonies had their own ships and defenses, but they were not as advanced as the U.S. Valiant. If possible, he wanted to handle this battle alone. Steve, are the medical facilities ready for casualties? Steve Martinez had been preparing for this moment since they left their home colony. All medical stations are fully equipped, Captain. We have supplies for major injuries and emergency surgery. I just hope we do not need to use them. Blake understood Steve's feelings. None of them wanted to see their friends and crewmates get hurt. But they all knew the risks when they volunteered for this mission. Listen, everyone, Blake said, looking at each of his officers. In a few hours, we are going to face the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. They have more ships, more weapons, and more experience than we do. But we have something they do not have. What is that, Captain? Lisa Park asked. We have a reason to fight. They fight for conquest and power. We fight for survival and freedom. They think they destroyed us once, but they only made us stronger. Today we show them that humanity will never give up. The officers nodded in agreement. They had all lost friends and family to the Empire. They had all spent years preparing for this moment. Now it was time to prove that humanity deserved its place in the galaxy on the other side of space. War Admiral Ziegfeld stood on the bridge of the Eternal Domination. The massive ship was over 2 kilometers long and bristled with weapons. Around it, the rest of the 7th Fleet moved in perfect formation. Admiral, we will reach the target in 2 hours, his navigation officer reported. Ziegfeld studied the tactical display. The human ship was still in the same position, apparently waiting for them. It showed no signs of fear or retreat. That bothered him more than he wanted to admit. Have you analyzed the sensor data from Admiral Exmoor's engagement? He asked his science officer. Yes, Admiral. The human ship's power output is unlike anything we have seen before. Their shields appear to use some kind of new technology that absorbs energy instead of just blocking it. Ziegfeld frowned. Shields that absorbed energy would be very difficult to defeat with conventional weapons. What about their weapons? Extremely powerful, Admiral. Much more focused than our plasma cannons. They seem to be able to cut through our shields and armor with ease. The War Admiral considered this information carefully. He had never faced an enemy with superior technology before. The Empire had always been the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. No matter, he said finally, we have numbers on our side. 200 ships against 1. Even if their technology is better, they cannot fight us all at once. But even as he said it, Ziegfeld felt a small doubt in his mind. The humans had surprised everyone by surviving the genocide 30 years ago. What if they had more surprises? Waiting? All ships, prepare for battle, he ordered. We will surround the human vessel and attack from all sides simultaneously. They cannot block attacks from every direction. The 7th Fleet continued its approach, confident in their overwhelming numbers. But in the depths of space, the U.S. Valiant waited patiently. Captain Blake and his crew were ready to show the Empire that sometimes One ship with the right technology and the right crew could change the fate of the entire galaxy, the greatest space battle in history was about to begin, and the outcome would determine whether humanity would finally be free or whether the Empire would complete the genocide they had started 30 years ago. The countdown to battle had begun. War Admiral Zichthos watched his fleet spread out in a perfect sphere around the human ship. 200 Zephyrian warships moved into position like a closing fist. Each ship was a weapon of destruction that had conquered countless worlds. Together, they represented the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. "All ships in position, Admiral," his tactical officer reported. Zichthos smiled coldly. The human ship sat in the center of his formation like a trapped animal. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. No matter how advanced their technology was, they could not fight in every direction at once. "Target all weapons on the human vessel. Every ship will fire at the same moment. I want that ship turned into space dust." The order went out to every ship in the fleet. Plasma cannons charged to full power. Particle beam arrays locked onto their target. Fusion missile launchers loaded their deadliest warheads. The combined firepower was enough to crack a planet in half. Captain Blake stood calmly on the bridge of the Hughes Valiant. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet confidence. They could see the Empire ships surrounding them on every display screen, but no one looked worried. 200 ships, Captain," Lisa Park reported from her navigation station. "They have us completely surrounded." "Danny, shield status?" Blake asked. Danny Rodriguez checked his engineering displays. "Quantum phase shields at full power, Captain. All systems are running perfectly. We are ready for whatever they throw at us." Blake nodded. The quantum phase shields were humanity's greatest invention. The more energy the Empire fired at them, the stronger their ship would become. "Karen, target selection?" Karen White studied her weapons display. 200 targets surrounded them, but she was not concerned. The plasma lance arrays could handle them all. "I have targeting solutions for all enemy ships, Captain. The computer has identified the best firing pattern to disable the maximum number of vessels with minimum shots." "Amy, any intelligence on their attack plan?" Amy Chun had been listening to Empire communications. "They are planning a simultaneous strike from all directions, Captain. Every ship will fire at the same moment. War Admiral Zichthos believes we cannot defend against attacks from every angle." Blake smiled. The Empire was about to learn how wrong they were. "All stations prepare for combat. This is what we train for." War Admiral Zichthos raised his hand, ready to give the order that would destroy the last human ship in the galaxy. Around him, his bridge crew waited in tense silence. The moment had come to finish what the Empire had started 30 years ago. "Oh. Ships. Dire." The space around the Hughes Valiant exploded in light. 200 ships unleashed their weapons at the same instant. Plasma bolts, energy beams, and missiles converged on the human vessel from every direction. The combined attack was so powerful that it lit up 3 nearby star systems. The explosion was visible from planets light years away. The energy released was equivalent to a dozen supernovas going off at once. No ship in the galaxy's history had ever faced such overwhelming firepower. For several minutes, the brilliant light made it impossible to see anything. The energy storm raged around the human ship like an artificial star. When the light finally began to fade, War Admiral Zichthos leaned forward in his command chair, expecting to see empty space where the human ship had been. Instead, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The Hughes Valiant floated exactly where it had been before the attack. Its hull gleamed with a soft blue light, completely undamaged. The quantum phase shields had absorbed every bit of energy from the massive attack and converted it into power for the ship's systems. "Impossible," Zichthos whispered. "Nothing can survive that much firepower." But Captain Blake was already planning his response. The Empire had just given him exactly what he needed. "Danny, power levels?" he asked. Danny Rodriguez looked at his displays with amazement. "Off the charts, Captain." The shields absorb so much energy that our power systems are running at 300% of normal capacity. We have enough stored energy to fight for days. Blake turned to his weapons officer. Karen, show them what human engineering can do. Begin the demonstration. Karen White's fingers moved across her control panel with practiced precision. The plasma lance arrays came online, powered by the massive energy the Empire had just given them. Each weapon was now 3 times more powerful than normal. Targeting the outer ring first, Captain. 40 ships, minimum power settings. The Hughes Valiant fired its first volley. 40 beams of pure energy reached out toward the Empire ships like fingers of death. Each beam was perfectly aimed, striking its target with surgical precision. 40 Zephyrian warships went silent in an instant. Their shields collapsed, their hulls were breached, and their engines died. The ships began to drift helplessly. Their crews alive but powerless. War Admiral Ziekthos stared at his tactical display in shock. In less than 10 seconds, the human ship had disabled 40 of his vessels. His mouth fell open as he tried to understand what he was seeing. Sir, we have lost contact with the entire outer ring. His communications officer reported, his voice shaking with fear, but Captain Blake was not finished. He wanted to send a message that the Empire would never forget. Second volley, Karen. Target the middle ring. 50 ships this time. The Hughes Valiant fired again. This time, 50 beams of energy struck out at the Empire formation. The result was the same. 50 more Zephyrian ships went dead in space, their crews trapped inside floating hulks. This cannot be happening, Ziekthos said, but his voice lacked conviction. It was happening, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Tony Garcia worked at his strategic operations station, analyzing the Empire formation. Captain, their formation is breaking apart. Some ships are trying to retreat, others are trying to get closer. They have no coordination. Blake could see it too. The Empire fleet was falling apart as panic spread through their ranks. These crews had never faced an enemy they could not defeat. They did not know how to handle failure. Third volley, Karen. Inner ring, 60 ships. Let's see how many more they want to lose. The third attack was even more devastating than the first 2. 60 beams of energy reached out from the human ship, each one finding its target with perfect accuracy. 60 more Empire ships joined their comrades in powerless drifting. War Admiral Ziekthos finally found his voice. All ships retreat, maximum speed, get out of range. But it was too late for an organized retreat. The remaining Empire ships scattered in all directions, each crew thinking only of their own survival. The most powerful fleet in galactic history was running away from a single human ship. Captain Blake watched the Empire ships flee with satisfaction. In less than 5 minutes, he had disabled 150 enemy vessels without taking any damage. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer the weak race the Empire remembered. Beth, open the communication channel to the Empire flagship. Beth Turner quickly established the link. Channel open, Captain. Blake stepped forward so that his image would be transmitted to the fleeing War Admiral. He wanted Ziekthos to remember this moment for the rest of his life. War Admiral Ziekthos, this is Captain Blake. I hope you have learned something today. Your empire tried to destroy humanity 30 years ago. You failed then, and you have failed again today. Tell your Supreme Chancellor that humanity has returned, and we are no longer afraid of you. Ziekthos appeared on the main screen, his face twisted with rage and humiliation. This is not over, human. The Empire has thousands of ships. We will never stop hunting you. Blake's expression remained calm. Admiral, you brought 200 ships against 1. Now you have 50 ships left, and my ship has not been scratched? Are you sure you want to continue this war? Because I can promise you that it will not end the way you expect. The communication ended as the Empire flagship disappeared into hyperspace with the rest of the fleeing fleet. Captain Blake turned to face his crew, all of whom were staring at him with admiration. Damage report, he said simply. No damage to report, Captain, Danny Rodriguez said with a grin. All systems are functioning perfectly. The ship is actually in better condition now than when we started. thanks to all the energy we absorbed. Steve Martinez looked up from his medical station. No casualties, Captain. We did not even feel the enemy attack. Blake nodded with satisfaction. The demonstration had gone exactly as planned. The Empire now knew that humanity possessed technology far beyond anything they could understand. Lisa set course for the Empire capital. It is time to have a conversation with Supreme Chancellor Morduk. As the Hughes Valiant began moving toward the heart of Empire space, the disabled Zephyrian ships drifted helplessly behind them. The crews were alive and unharmed, but their pride was shattered. They had witnessed something impossible, the defeat of the mighty Seventh Fleet by a single enemy ship. News of the battle would spread throughout the Empire within hours. Every Zephyrian citizen would learn that their invincible military had been humiliated by the very race they thought they had destroyed. The Empire that had ruled the galaxy, through fear for over a century, was about to discover what it felt like to be afraid. And in the hidden human colonies scattered across the Outer Rim, millions of people celebrated as word spread that their long exile was finally coming to an end. Supreme Chancellor Morduk sat in his throne room, staring at the reports scattered across his table. Each report told the same impossible story. The Seventh Fleet, the pride of the Empire, had been destroyed by a single human ship, War Admiral. Zekthos had returned with only 50 ships out of 200, and those ships were damaged and demoralized. The throne room that had once felt like a symbol of power now felt like a prison. The weapons on the walls, taken from defeated enemies, suddenly looked old and useless. For the first time in 50 years of rule, Morduk felt truly afraid. Supreme Chancellor, his aide said quietly, the human ship is approaching our capital system. It will be here in 2 hours. Morduk closed his eyes. The humans were coming to his homeworld, the heart of the Empire. They were coming to finish what they had started. But this time, the Empire had no fleet left to stop them. Have they sent any messages? He asked. Yes, Supreme Chancellor. They are demanding to speak with you directly. They say they want to discuss terms for peace. Morduk laughed, but there was no humor in it. Peace? After 30 years of war? After we tried to destroy their entire race? But what choice did he have? His military was broken. His fleets were scattered. The humans had proven that their technology was far superior to anything the Empire possessed. Fighting them would only lead to more defeats. Tell them I will speak with them when they arrive. On the Hughes Valiant, Captain Blake prepared for the most important conversation in human history. His ship had entered the Empire capital system without any resistance. The few Empire ships they encountered had quickly moved out of their way, unwilling to face the vessel that had destroyed the Seventh Fleet. Captain, we are being hailed by the planetary defense grid, Beth Turner reported. Put them through. Blake said. The main screen showed a nervous Zephyrian officer. Human vessel, you are ordered to maintain your current position. Supreme Chancellor Morduk will speak with you shortly. Blake smiled. The Empire was trying to maintain some dignity, but everyone could hear the fear in the officer's voice. We will wait, Blake replied, but not for long. Amy Chun worked at her intelligence station, analyzing the Empire capital defenses. Captain, they have orbital weapons platforms around the planet. Older technology, but still dangerous if we get too close. How dangerous? Blake asked. Not very, Captain. Our shields could handle their weapons easily, but they might try to use them as a last resort, Blake nodded. He hoped it would not come to that. Humanity did not want to destroy the Empire capital. They wanted to end the war and establish peace. Tony, what do we know about other Empire fleets? Tony Garcia had been tracking Empire military movements for hours. Most of their remaining fleets are pulling back to defend core systems, Captain. They seem to be expecting us to attack their major worlds. That is not our plan, Blake said. We came here to talk, not to conquer. An hour later, the main screen activated again. This time, it showed Supreme Chancellor Morduk himself. The ancient Zephyrian leader looked older than Blake had expected and very tired. Captain Blake, Morduk said, his voice formal but respectful, You have certainly made an impression on my empire. What do you want? Blake stepped forward so that both leaders could see each other clearly. This moment would change the history of the galaxy forever. Supreme Chancellor, 30 years ago, your empire tried to commit genocide against the human race. You thought you had succeeded. You were wrong. Humanity survived, and we have grown stronger than you can imagine. Mordecai's eyes narrowed. What do you want from me? Revenge? The destruction of my people? No, Blake said firmly. We want peace. But peace on our terms. The Empire will end all aggressive actions against other species. You will respect the sovereignty of other civilizations. And you will recognize humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs. The Supreme Chancellor was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his advisors whispered urgently, but he ignored them. And if I refuse? Mordok asked. Blake's expression remained calm, but his voice carried unmistakable authority. Then you will face the consequences. What you saw with the 7th Fleet was just one ship, Chancellor. We have built more. Many more, and our technology continues to advance. This was not entirely true. The UES Valiant was currently the only ship of its class, but the human colonies were building more. Within a year, humanity would have a small but powerful fleet. Beth Turner received a priority message on her communications panel. She listened to it quickly, then looked at Captain Blake with excitement. Captain, I am receiving messages from human colonies throughout the galaxy. They are reporting that local Empire forces are withdrawing from their systems. Word of our victory is spreading fast. Blake smiled. This was even better than they had hoped. The Empire military was losing the will to fight without being ordered to retreat. Supreme Chancellor Mordek heard the report too, and his shoulders sagged slightly. His empire was falling apart, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. You have won, Captain Blake. What are your specific terms? Blake had been preparing for this moment for months. He pulled out a datapad containing the Galactic Accord, a document that human leaders had spent years writing. First, the Empire will immediately cease all military operations against non-Empire worlds. Second, you will withdraw your forces from all occupied territories and allow those worlds to govern themselves. Third, you will establish trade and diplomatic relations with humanity and other free civilizations. Mordok listened to each term carefully. They were harsh but not impossible. The Empire would survive, but it would no longer be the dominant power in the galaxy, and in return, the Chancellor asked, humanity will not seek revenge for past crimes. We will not attack Empire worlds or citizens. We will even offer to share some of our technology to help rebuild the galaxy as a peaceful place. This surprised Mordok. He had expected the humans to demand the destruction of the Empire. Instead, they were offering partnership and cooperation. Why? He asked. Why show mercy to those who try to destroy you? Blake thought of all the friends and family he had lost in the war. He thought of the years of hiding and fear that humanity had endured, but he also thought of the future. Because revenge only leads to more war, Chancellor. We want to build something better. A galaxy where different species can coexist in peace, where conflicts are resolved through negotiation instead of violence. Steve Martinez listened to the conversation from his medical station. As a doctor, he had seen too much death and suffering. The idea of peace appealed to him greatly. Rick Santos felt differently. His Marine training made him suspicious of the Empire's promises. But he trusted Captain Blake's judgment. Danny Rodriguez was already thinking about the technical exchanges that might be possible. Human and Empire engineers working together could accomplish amazing things. Supreme Chancellor Mordek made his decision. The alternative was the complete destruction of his civilization, and that was not acceptable. I agree to your terms, Captain Blake. The Empire accepts the Galactic Accord. The words echoed through the throne room and across the galaxy. Within hours, the news would reach every world in known space. The age of Empire domination was over. The age of cooperation was beginning. Captain Blake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The mission that had seemed impossible was complete. Humanity had not only survived the Empire's attempt at genocide, They had emerged as leaders in a new galactic community. Thank you, Chancellor. I will transmit the full accord to your government. We can begin implementation immediately. Over. The following weeks, the changes were dramatic. Empire fleets withdrew from occupied worlds. Trade routes reopened between different species. Diplomatic missions began establishing embassies on various planets. The UES Valiant became a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. Other species that had suffered under Empire rule sent messages of thanks and requests for alliance. The human colonies began emerging from hiding, establishing open contact with the galactic community for the first time in 30 years. Captain Blake found himself appointed as humanity's first galactic ambassador. It was not a role he had wanted, but it was one the galaxy needed him to fill. Amy Chan established intelligence networks to monitor compliance with the Accord. Most Empire forces were following orders and withdrawing peacefully, but some required additional persuasion. Lisa Park began mapping new trade routes between human colonies and other free worlds. The galaxy was becoming connected in ways it had never been before. Karen White found herself training other species in advanced weapons technology, helping them defend themselves against any remaining Empire loyalists, the crew that had started. As representatives of a hidden, nearly extinct civilization now stood as founders of a new galactic order. They had proven that even the mightiest empires could be challenged by those who refused to give up. Supreme Chancellor Mordak kept his word. The Empire transformed from a conquering force into a trading partner. It was not easy for his people to accept, but the alternative was destruction. The galaxy that had once lived in fear of the Empire now looked forward to a future of cooperation and peace. And at the center of it all was humanity, the species that had refused to die and had emerged stronger than anyone thought possible.